Gentlemen, welcome to another episode of the Men of Bronze podcast. I am your host and founder, Stephen Lopes. I want to thank you for joining me tonight. If this is your first time joining us for a podcast episode, I want to welcome you, and I hope you gain some value from these conversations and something that you can implement in your daily life. If you're a return listener, thank you again for your continued support. I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you guys. My guest tonight is Carl Murawski. Carl is a YouTuber and a men's fashion guru who specializes in everyday wear and workwear. In this episode, we talk about why it's important for a man to care about why he dresses, how that can boost your confidence, and the importance of perception. We also talk about what brands are worth researching and how you can get out of your Walmart mindset. It's a great conversation. Carl really knows his stuff. He brings a lot to the table, so I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Before I get into the episode, guys, I want to thank you for joining me, and I want to ask you to subscribe, whether that's on YouTube or whatever podcast platform that you prefer. I want to thank you for your ratings, your reviews. If you haven't done that, please do it. And more than anything, I ask you that you share it with a friend. There's a lot of men out there that need to hear a good message. And what we really try to provide at Men of Bronze is a positive message for men so we can grow in ourselves, be better fathers, be better entrepreneurs, be better husbands, employees, whatever it is where you need to improve as a man. We try to provide conversations that allow you to grow, equip you with tools that'll make you better men in your everyday life. So guys, please rate, review, subscribe, and share the podcast. And most of all, enjoy the episode, guys.
You changed the name. I'm sorry, not to cut you off. You changed the name.
Good. I did.
That threw me for a loop.
Well, so what happened was I started... Okay, I'll give you the quick of what's going on here.
Okay.
I've talked about doing something for years, and basically last November I got tired of just talking and decided to do something. And I had dabbled in the idea of doing a podcast before. So I thought, you know what? I'm making a podcast. Let's do it. So I thought, what would I want to make? And I sat down, I thought, well, what would I want to hear myself? So, as a young father, I guess young enough, I'm 30 with 2 young kids. I thought I'd like to have a podcast dedicated to men that has the kind of content that you can digest and become a better man. So that's when I created Mindset Bootcamp. So about 10 episodes in, I kind of reflected on what was going on with the show. And I thought, the name and the logo doesn't quite jive to reel men in. Mindset Bootcamp seems more like psychology based, and the logo was a brain. And so I thought, you know what? It's time for a rebrand. Same mission, same goal, all that kind of stuff. Just, more of a, I guess for a lack of a better term, a more masculine logo. Yep. And a name that grabs the attention of men. They see men of bronze. Sure. And the idea is to become worth remembering. Be a man that's worth remembering. How have we remembered, great people throughout history, statues, that kind of thing, Men of Bronze.
Right.
That's the idea.
Because I listened to a few episodes. You're slumming it with me here. You got some pretty good people. I mean, like doctors and people who've done these like great things. It's really cool. You've had some pretty good guests.
Well, I appreciate that, but I do not agree that I'm slumming it with you at all.
Content's drying up, man. Scraping the bottom of the barrel.
I think this is the kind of content we need to share. This is great. It's a bit unorthodox. It's not what people expect when they hear a podcast to talk about, quality clothing, that kind of thing. So it's exactly what I'm looking for. Something that's a little bit, just a bit different,
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And, I always love that when I listen to podcasts and maybe you listen to an episode that you didn't think that you were going to like. Either you didn't like the guest or whatever. And then you come away from it and you're just like, that was the most insightful thing. And I didn't think it would apply at all. I love when that happens.
Well, that's what I'm hoping for tonight.
Oh, geez. High expectations. We'll make it work, man. No problem.
So just a little bit about yourself first. You've got a fairly successful YouTube channel. And I went through a few of your videos, and I think the content is incredible.
Thanks, man.
A lot of the stuff that you do review is, stuff I would have never even known existed, which is interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So give me a little blurb about why you started the YouTube channel and how that journey has been.
Oh man, yeah. So I started it. It was the seed had been planted a while back. So I remember when I was riding in my work van and I was thinking of I gotta get different work pants. These things aren't that great. So then I just Googled like best work pants or best work shirt or something like that, and all that came up was a bunch of ads.
Yeah.
So automatically I was thinking like, man, I wish somebody would go out there and just either find some of these smaller brands, and bring those out, because the guys who have the biggest wallet are the ones who take up all the ad space, so they're really eating up bandwidth. So it's hard to get away from that. You see Carhartt, you see Dickies, you see the big guys, but not necessarily the grease point workwear, the guy who's working out of his own little shed. So it's really, and that's one of the things I've tried to do that you mentioned. I'm glad that it's coming across, is find these smaller guys, a lot of times like makers, like one guy or a small team who are doing these amazing things. And they're spending all their time and all their money on their product and none of it on their marketing. So if I can help them by bringing them in front of their ideal customer, then that would be great, So I'm glad that that's started to come across. But the idea for the YouTube channel actually was a thing. I was on my honeymoon. We had spent like 10 days in Mexico, and I was just chilling out down there, and I was rereading the 4-Hour Workweek, and I was like so bummed that I had to go back to work. And I was like, man, I shouldn't feel so bummed. Like I feel like I got let out and I'm free, and I have to go back and put on the handcuffs, and it's like, you feel weighted down. So I was thinking like, I've got to start something on my own, even if it starts small and I can just build it little by little by little. At least it's mine.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's where I was like, all right, well, I'm gonna do something. And I think on the plane ride home, I had kind of come up with the idea, and that was the real start of it. But even if you look at like the uploads after that, I did one, and then I look back and I'm like, man, that sucked. Like that was terrible. Every time anybody makes their first few videos, it's going to be just horrible. You're going to look back and cringe, and then a little bit less the next time. And I remember like, I didn't have a tripod. I just kind of set this thing up on like my bureau, and I'm just staring at it. And I'm like, what am I going to say? And it was just so awkward. And even if I look back at that first video, I'm like, man, I was so stiff and just, you could tell it was uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But the big takeaway from that one, though, is there's such a value to imperfect action. If I waited until I had all the gear and the camera and the microphone and a bunch of scripts, I'd probably still be waiting. Yeah. But if you can set off in the right direction and know going into it that you're going to make some mistakes and you're going to learn from those things, that's way more valuable. Like that experience of going through that is way more valuable than waiting until you're good and ready. And it's like being a father, like we have 2 kids too. And you're never really ready. You just jump in and do it,
Yeah.
So
head first.
That's been a huge takeaway.
I feel inspired by you saying that because oh man, I was trying to record. So what I'm trying to do is, I'm not doing the introductions for the guests during the episode because I found that's what I was doing before. And if you listen to the Mindset Bootcamp episodes, you would have heard that. Mm-hmm. I find it really awkward. And I'm like reading a script of, tonight's show, I have Carl and he's a YouTuber. And it didn't sound natural at all. So I decided I'm going to kibosh that. I'm going to just record a natural conversation, which is going to be a lot of fun. And then afterwards, I'll record a little separate video just saying, tonight's guest is this guy. We had an awesome conversation, a few points from the conversation. So that's kind of the idea. And I was recording one the other night outside my front door, which is super awkward when your neighbors walk by, which happened like 3 times. And it took me like 20 takes at least. And I just don't quite have it yet. I'm a little bit robotic and trying not to mess up my flow of words and that kind of thing. And it's just not quite natural yet. So I'm trying my best to grow in that. And then, I came inside, my wife's like, so how did it go? She can obviously hear me like 20 times in a row. Welcome to Men of Bronze. And it's hilarious.
It's tough. and even something as simple as that, people would think, well, how hard could it be? You know, you modulate your voice, you talk into a camera or a microphone, and it's very hard.
It's hard.
I have a lot of respect for voiceover artists. I mean, the fact absolutely. That they have to, it's incredible. There's a guy on YouTube I like to watch. His name's Mike Delgaudio. He does a bunch of podcasts and stuff like that, like a voice actor.
Okay.
And he has some pretty cool tips and stuff, because same thing. It's like, it's part of the craft, you know, talking and presenting and being interesting and watching your language and all that. So it's, again, something that you learn and, you know, you're just going to get better at. But boy, I got a lot of respect for people who just, they're going to go for it anyway.
I agree.
Know, they know they're going to, it's like when you see that guy at the gym and he's just starting off, you want to give him a high five. You're like, man, good for you. I know it's not easy.
Yeah. He's almost an inspiration looking back, right?
Exactly. And he's all self-conscious, but he's inspiring the guys who've been there for years.
Yeah,
so
I agree.
It's cool. And I wish more people could just embrace being supportive of people like that. You know, you see somebody and you're just like, it's not quite there, but you know what, dude, keep on going. And I think that's valuable.
I found that I've got a lot more respect for content creators in general. I've always thought of, you know, content creating in a bit of a negative light. I never realized just how much work it is. And for one podcast episode, never mind doing a YouTube video of it, just the audio uploaded for a podcast is hours of work.
Oh yeah.
And I don't think people realize that. And even when you see these YouTubers who, you know, in my opinion, I would say, you know, that person's a loser, or, you know, that content is garbage and it's bad for kids, whatever it is. It's like that person's still putting in a ton of work.
Oh yeah.
It is not just sitting down, recording a video and, you know, grab the file off your camera and stick it on the internet. It's not like that. Not. So
yeah, even if you look at the really seasoned guys like Casey Neistat or something, who make it look like they're just having fun with a camera.
Yes. It's crazy.
Yeah. It takes a long time. And that's just it. And so when you get, you know, approached by somebody who wants to be on your podcast, or somebody who wants to, make a video about their product, well, you do know that this isn't just something that happens in an afternoon, right? I mean, it's like you have to kind of figure out the angle. And then, you know, you and I had corresponded a little bit before, and, you know, making sure that it's going to be interesting to people who actually are going to consume your content. And then finally polishing it, and depending on how high a level you hold yourself to, that could be quite a process. So yeah, it takes a long time, but it's a labor of love. You have to do it because you love it first.
Yes.
And then if it becomes a business, all the better.
Yeah, I don't expect to make any money from this for quite some time, if ever, and that's totally fine. But I did watch your video about your open and honest video of how much you make from YouTube, which I found pretty interesting. Because you never see analytics like that. No one ever shares that.
No. People they play their cards very close to the vest, and I think it's discouraging, because one of the reasons I wanted to make that video is because I heard that, you know, now the goal, so many people want to be a YouTuber. That's like the number one thing young kids want to be. Well, I'm sure that they look at the guys who are killing it and they think it's really simple.
Yeah.
But the fact is that even with a video, at that time, I forgot how many views it had gotten. And I want to make a new one on the video that I have that got over 1 million views, and how much 1 million views actually makes. You would think like, wow, that's a great payday. It's really not. It's not at all. You know, I mean, you get several of those going. Now you're talking, but
sure,
man, it's a lot of work. And I think it's something like $4 for every 1,000 views. That's it. I mean, it's not much at all.
Which is fair, right? There's so many videos out there. They can't, I mean, yes, they could probably afford it because it's owned by Google, but they could afford to hand, you know, paychecks out. But there's a lot of videos out there. So
absolutely. And creators. I forgot how many millions of channels there are. And who do you choose? I mean, you know, that's the thing, is that the wheat is separated from the chaff naturally. People will watch what's fun content, and they won't watch others. And so that's kind of the fun of it. You know, you're always kind of competing. But the great thing about YouTube specifically is that it's one of the only places I've seen where my competition actually helps me. It's not me versus them. It's the two of us who are working towards a similar goal, if that makes sense. Because if they're watching my video on a pair of boots, more than likely they're going to watch that guy's video on the same boots. So
right.
it actually helps. And that's what's been great. I've made so many awesome connections with people and friendships and done things that I never thought I would do with these YouTubers. It's been so much fun. And that's the big thing, is the takeaway is the friendships and the connections, you know.
I feel the same way. I've been doing the podcast for just a couple of months, and the connections I've made with a few guys already is so incredible. I could have never imagined, and I really look forward to keeping it going. And in a couple of years' time, I can't even imagine what it'll be like.
Yeah, and if as long as your numbers are trending in the right direction, it's a sign to keep going. And then you get that. What I've noticed is that if you listen to your audience, they'll tell you exactly what you need to do, but you have to be listening in a way, right? So you have to look at the episodes that do well, and then try to repeat what it was in that they really liked, or come up with something that's similar to, runs parallel to it. And that's how I started off doing like suits and ties and stuff like that, like more formal stuff.
Okay.
And then as soon as I touched on the things that I actually wear at work, people responded. And it was like, these are actually getting views. People don't really care because there's other people who are doing that. And how many of us actually dress up in a suit and tie? But as soon as I started talking about like workwear or, like heavy boots, the stuff that I actually like to wear, not that I don't like to wear suits, but that's when people responded. So I'm like, okay, well, let's steer in this direction, and the same thing when you get somebody who everybody really connects with, and an insight that they may have, it's like you can chase that, and then your audience will tell you what they want to hear, and that's what's great. But it can be difficult to decipher those signals sometimes.
Yeah, for sure. What do you do for work outside of YouTube, if you're comfortable answering?
Yeah, no, I'm an electrician. So I've been an electrician. I was a mechanic first, right out of high school. There was really no future in that particular job. I got really mad one day at that job, and I drove straight to a tech school, and I was like, all right, sign me up. And I decided I'm being an electrician on the ride there, because I'm like, all right, plumbing is really dirty, and I've heard that, HVAC, you go deaf by 30.
Yeah.
I guess electrical, I'll just do that. And my grandfather was an electrician and stuff. So went there, signed up that night because I was just so fed up. And so I started my apprenticeship, climbed the ranks, became a foreman, led a crew, got into the office about 4 years ago. And now I'm managing projects from the other side.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I've gotten to see it from the field side, which has been great.
Mm-hmm.
Then I started noticing, I'm 39. I started noticing in my 30s that I was like starting to slow down a little bit, like climbing up those ladders and pulling that wire I could feel it the next day. So I'm thinking, well, how many guys are in their 50s and 60s doing this? So I figured, all right, well, got to change it up again. Started going back to school at night. I started a degree back like right out of high school, and I never finished. So I went to school at night, did my apprenticeship during the day, and finished my degree. And that was what got me into the office. And now I work for a great contractor. We do a lot of really big work. Like we did a casino. The first thing I got there was a resort casino. We do a lot of work for the railroad. Cool. So there's still a field element. I still go out there with the guys. I still do a lot of that stuff. But I'm not pulling wire and doing the stuff like I used to. So yeah, that's where a lot of my background comes from, and the ways that I review things and actually analyze them and go about testing them is through that job, but also, through side work that I'll do because, I'm still a licensed electrician, so I can do work on the side or around my own house, or, God knows, family always needs something, so
yeah, for sure.
So I could test it out that way. Yeah. It's fun being in the trades.
Yeah, I agree. I dabbled in electrical for a little bit. It didn't work out, but I went back to school in my mid 20s as well, full time on weekends, because I had a mortgage and that kind of thing. So, and I grabbed a different degree. Now I'm a construction inspector.
Oh, no kidding.
It's kind of like it's like an office job, but in the field.
Yeah, sure.
So I like that a lot. It gives me a lot of freedom. I don't have to do the back-breaking work, but I'm hanging out with those guys all day. So I really enjoy it. And I have the freedom to drive around between different sites and that kind of thing. So yeah, I really enjoy it. So
Oh, that's very cool. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no doubt about it. And that's the thing is I was trying to explain this to somebody recently where there is definitely a way that construction workers can sniff out somebody who's not among them. You know
Oh
what I mean?
yeah.
Like if you walk up to a bunch of guys who are taking their lunch break or something, and you know, they can tell in an instant as soon as you start talking if you're one of them or not.
Yep.
And it's funny because like I noticed that I was changing my voice, my tone, all that stuff when I was in the office and when I would go out and talk to the crews, because it's like, you know, you let the F bombs fly. For some reason I adapt like a partially New York accent. It's like, what am I doing? You know, how did this happen? I was born in Connecticut, you know. It's like, that's what translates.
Yeah.
And when you have
I
to
can
tell
relate.
yeah, it's funny how there's those subtle signals that you don't realize you're doing.
We have to adapt, right?
Mm-hmm.
I talk about this in an episode that's coming out soon with a guy named Chase Hughes, who's a behavior expert. And he works with like high elite groups of government, Navy, military, all that kind of stuff about persuasion tactics and all that kind of stuff. So we constantly have lots of masks and we're able to swap them out, and it's not a negative thing. It's adaptability. So
yeah. Have you read the book The Like Switch?
The Like Switch?
Yeah.
I have not.
It's a great book, and you would love it. It's written by a former, I believe he worked for the government in some sort of information sort of quasi spy.
Okay, cool.
And so he was talking about how he was able to take spies that he knew were actually spies and sort of turn them around to be on his side, or how to interrogate somebody.
Interesting.
It was very interesting, and he breaks it down. And one of the big things, like he had a guy who you know, they knew he was a spy, they had him, and he just wouldn't talk, so nobody could crack the guy. And so he said, I went in there, I didn't say a thing to him, I opened up my paper, sat there for half an hour. He told me he wasn't going to talk to me, sat there for half an hour, folded up my paper, and left. And he's like, I did this for almost a month, didn't say a thing to the guy. And then at the end of that month, the guy looked at me, he's like, aren't you going to ask me a question? And he's like, are you ready to talk? And he's like, yeah, I guess, but I'm not going to say, you know, this or this. He goes, that's fine. You just talk about whatever you're used to. And he wore him down that way.
Wow.
You know, got him to answer one simple question, you know, what's your name or whatever. And at the end of a few months, he had this guy completely cracked. But it was amazing. And it's a great book. It's a pretty easy read too. So it's not like full of a bunch of jargon that I don't understand. You know,
I'm going to check it out for sure.
Yeah, it's really, really good. Very good.
So one of the things that that you mentioned about, you know, how construction guys can sniff you out, and I think this will be a good way to tie into our actual topic tonight, is I sometimes feel like I have to prove myself to the guys, because I try and dress nicely. Mm-hmm. Like we talked about off the air over messaging the other day, that I wear cool pants. KUHL, and that's all I wear, and they look great. And the thing I love about them is they look good as workwear, but you can also wear, you know, a button-up shirt tucked in, and they look great as office wear as well. Mm-hmm. But they're tough, they're rugged, they're great. And then, you know, I have my my Chelsea boot, my Timberland boots that I wear, and you can dissect my wardrobe later if you'd like. And and then I often have my shirt tucked in, and a leather belt with my Leatherman on the side. And I try and be presentable, but I try and wear functional clothing and that kind of thing. And you can catch judgment from those guys sometimes if you're not like walking up with your like untied work boots and, you know, your torn Levi's and that kind of thing. So I find it weird. There's a weird balance of like, I want to dress respectable because I don't get dirty all the time, but I do hang out with these guys. So you have to kind of let go some of that judgment, and like, you don't have anything to prove to them. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. And if you're a legitimate person and you do your job well and you care about the work they do and you treat these guys well, they'll respect you.
Right.
But you don't necessarily need the big. I know some inspectors, they buy their big fancy trucks and stuff because they like that image when they roll up on site. I don't roll that way. You know, I get my image with my personality, and I find that it's more genuine.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Yeah.
let's talk quality clothing,
Mm-hmm.
because that's kind of the idea here. So one of the things you mentioned before was switching from a Walmart mindset, but I found it interesting on your Instagram the other day that you said Carhartt or Dickies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I was like, well, Dickies is Walmart.
Yep, no doubt
And
about it.
I can't stand Dickies.
Mm-hmm.
I find they fit terribly. The quality is just not there.
No, it's not. It's
And
not.
they're common, but man, do they fit weird. They're
Yep.
just...
And part of that whole thing, one of the reasons that I chose that topic and I compare Carhartt and Dickies a lot is because a lot of people think that there is no difference.
Oh,
And a lot of
man.
people, I remember last year, it was a Teamster in New York I was working with, and he bought a full setup of Walls gear. You know what I mean? Like the Walls clothing. I think it's a Walmart brand. And he goes, nah, it's the same thing as yours. Look, it's this, the brown duck material. And he thought legitimately it was the same thing. So I want to compare those two, not necessarily because they are both viable options, which they are. Don't get me wrong. Somebody could buy those and work in them, no problem. I always have to preface those things because sometimes somebody will just jump.
You're going to offend somebody.
Yeah, well, yeah, and you know what? If we worried about that, we'd never say a thing. But it's more about the fact that I believe Carhartt has the value and the goods to really bring it. It's worth that extra $14. But everybody looks at it and says, these two things look exactly the same. So I try to pick the two most identical things and show why that is actually a bargain. $14 is not much more to pay for a thicker fabric. It's made in the USA. There's more rivets. It's better thought out. The side pockets are a little bit higher. So when you put your whatever you want to put in that side pocket, it's not banging against the side of your knee. The gauge of the zipper is better. All of these things that add up to a better product in the end. And what ends up happening is you buy the better thing and you don't have to buy more of the worst thing. And boots are probably the best example of this. So there are a few boot brands up in the northwest corner of the United States, which White's, Westco, Nicks, there's a few others there as well, that make these phenomenal boots. A lot of firefighters wear them because they make specific flame resistant thread boots and all kinds of stuff that's meant for firefighters. But over here on the East Coast, not many people have heard of them. And a lot of people will say, well, why would I want to spend $500 on a pair of boots when I can get some Red Wings, which are made in the USA and they're really nice and etc., for $350 or whatever? Why should I spend that extra money? And it's solving and answering that question that I'm after. And the big thing is, because with a pair of boots from them, that's $500, right? You can get them resold, rebuilt. There are guys who have 20 years on their pair of boots. So you bought it and they're custom. So they're made to your foot. They're more comfortable. I noticed, because I bought a pair of them, that I was able to work longer days and feel more resilient at the end of the day. It wasn't like my feet were killing me.
Interesting.
I was more productive because it wasn't like, I got to sit down for a second, I got to get off my feet. These felt great. And so the time that you do spend in them is much more quality time. Plus, when you expand out, having to buy those $350 Red Wings every 2 years or 3 years, depending on what your job is, it's actually a bargain to buy the $500 ones, even if you keep them for only twice as long.
Yeah.
So $700 in the Red Wings or $500 in, these brand X. And that's the mindset there, which is, they say buy once, cry once. You spend it, but you aim before you shoot. You make sure that you make the right purchase for you and research through my videos and other, data points and figure out what's good for you. And then you can have a product that really fits your needs, that does the job well and will outlast other things. And in the end, ends up costing less. So that's the whole thing. And it can be a hard sell sometimes.
Yeah, there's a saying that I saw before, and I'm not going to get it right, but maybe you know it. It's about how, a poor man stays poor because he has to buy cheap items many times, whereas a rich man can stay rich because he buys a quality item once. There's something along those lines, or maybe it's not a saying, but whatever. And it rings true big time, right? There's anyone who has something of great quality that they've had for 10, 15 years, they'll tell you, wow, this purchase was worth it. It was pricey, but it was worth it. And it's very difficult to make that choice at the time, though.
Yes.
And we do it with everything. And we see it a lot.
We've gotten used.
Yeah. We have gotten used to it.
Used to the price. Yeah. I'm looking at in the corner right now, my father's, he had a Filson Mackinac Cruiser, right? Which is just a wool jacket. You've probably seen them. They're just like that scratchy wool, right?
Yep.
It's from the 1970s, and it still looks pretty much brand new. The buttons, the thread that holds the buttons on has started to come off, so I have to get that repaired. Now, those aren't cheap. Matter of fact, I just got the Filson catalog in the other day. I think that's like a $400 around their jacket. Back in the 70s, who knows how much it was.
Yeah.
I'm sure he didn't really wasn't psyched about paying the big dollars for it. But if he knew that he was going to wear it, and then eventually his son was going to wear it, and at the rate it's going, my son's going to wear it. So I love that saying, and the idea behind that being, if you bought that jacket once, and I'm a bit of a clothes horse, so I'm going to buy more. But if you just took care of that problem, right? You bought that jacket, that was your winter jacket.
Yep.
And you may never have to do it again. So buying that once and having a good quality item that works well, that keeps you warm, keeps you protected, is better than 5 that just don't do the job well, but they were cheap or they were on sale, and my wife does that all the time. It was on sale. Yeah, but it still sucks.
Yeah. Now, one of the things that I often think about, and this could be pure ignorance, is when you buy something of quality that it's going to last 40 years, what if it is just of awful style?
Yeah, that's the big problem, because you can buy something that is totally in right then, and then it just goes out.
And it's great that it's good quality, but in 40 years, you look like an idiot wearing this bright orange jacket or whatever it is.
Well, that's why it's best to stay in the classic menswear umbrella, if I may. A suit on a man in the 50s, the cut may have been a little bit different, but the essentials are there. The gorge on the lapel was a little bit lower back then. A few items, things here and there. If that same suit was fit well, which you could bring in tailor, it would still look pretty damn good. I mean, and I have a top coat I bought. I thrifted the thing. I don't know when it was from, but it's a top coat. Like a very classic cashmere wool camel color top coat. Things like that have been in style since people started dressing well. Since we had like spats or whatever, so like if you stay within that realm and don't go too crazy with the colors, because right now this bright color is in, like, for a little while ago, electric blue suits were like the thing.
Yeah.
And the super duper slim cut, like everything was cut way to the bone, and the whole, so if you just kind of keep an eye on things like that and say, well, I'm not going to go with the super slim cut, but I'm going to just keep it a little bit more traditional. You can get a lot of longevity out of that thing. But the other thing that goes hand in hand with that, make sure you wear your stuff. And this is something like I had to tell myself this. I would buy things and then I wanted to like save them because they were the nice thing. So
yeah,
like you don't actually wear it. When you buy it, wear it as much as is normal. You know what I mean? Just don't be afraid to use it.
Especially, get your money's worth out of it.
Exactly. Because what you'll have is some pristine, outdated clothes, instead of looking at it and saying, man, that thing doesn't owe me a dime. I wore it all the time, and now it's time to replace it, and I can give it a nice retirement. Like I'll wear it occasionally or something like that. Because let's face it, I mean, some of these things will last forever, but you're going to want something new eventually. You want to know that you got your money's worth out of it, though.
Yeah, I think that's especially true with like pants and stuff. And I've kind of found that with my cool pants. And I know these, you said you haven't reviewed any before. And I know they're probably not like the most top quality pants you can get. But they're about $130 Canadian per pair. And I usually get 4 years out of them. Three-ish years, but I wear them like I have 3 at a time,
Yeah.
and I wear cool pants every day.
Mm-hmm.
So I wear each pair almost twice a week.
Yeah.
So I get my money's worth out of them. And the only thing I need to try and focus on is not to wear them during like an oil change or something.
Yeah.
Like,
right.
That's the biggest thing, right? You get an oil stain on them, and it's like, well, now they're not nice.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
the
yeah.
quality's
it's hard
there,
to get that out.
but you got a big oil stain on them. So that's the biggest thing. But if I just wear them, and I wear them all the time, and I wear them for work, and I wear them for family events, they get a nice natural look to them too. You know, they're broken in. They might be. You might get a little bit of that fading on like the side of the knee or something like that, but it still looks good because it's natural.
Yeah, yeah. And there's a metric that they call cost per wear, which is you take the price of the item,
right,
and then you divide it. So with you, twice a week for several years, that's a lot of wears. You know what I mean? You're talking cents per wear. Yes. And again, in the time that you're wearing it, it's better. They look good. They protect you. And I've heard many, many good things about Cool. You know, a lot of people have asked for them to be reviewed. I will review them. I'll get around to it.
Yeah.
But if you were to do the opposite, if you were to buy the Dickies slacks or whatever, they might not look as good. They might not fit. They might be cheaper. You'd probably have to buy them every year or so. Yeah. So where is the savings there? And the thing is, though, knowing what to buy, because price isn't always a great measurement. You know, you can't just say, well, the most expensive thing must be the best. That's not true either.
Yeah, that's one thing I wanted to ask you about Carhartt was, do you really feel Carhartt's worth the value? I've always thought they were a little bit overpriced. They're pretty expensive here in Canada, at least. I don't know how expensive they are in the States, but I've always wondered if those are really worth the value.
I think it depends on the piece, and it depends on your application.
Okay.
When I was a mechanic, I wouldn't buy Carhartt gear because it would get gear oil in it, and it would smell, and you just couldn't get them clean.
Yeah.
But I will say this: I have Carhartt coats and jackets that I've had since I was an apprentice. So I know, because Carhartt actually brought me to their headquarters last year, and I got to meet their team and see kind of like how they test all their stuff. They go through, there's like, they call it the laboratory, and I have like a bit of a non-disclosure thing that I had to sign, so I can't really talk too much about it, but I can say that they test their stuff at length.
Wow,
and the other thing that they'll do, it's really neat. Like they try to abrade things and see how long it'll take, and places where it makes sense to use triple stitching versus not, because it'll bind up a little bit and be uncomfortable. And one of the things I thought that was really cool is they will visit like a dozen job sites every year to interview everybody there and ask what they want. So one of the things that came from that is this new like full swing thing they have going on. More or less, they put like gussets in it, because the whole thing with Carhartt was it'll protect you, but it's stiff. And you always feel like you're kind of wearing armor for a while.
Yeah.
So they wanted to keep their fabric, their like legendary fabric, but they put in these gussets. So now you can reach and stretch and swing a hammer and do all the whole thing, and you don't feel it binding up. So they do listen, and they brought us to an area where they actually have people come in, and they'll say, all right, put this on and swing a hammer. Okay, like, what do you notice? Do you like this? Do you not like it? And I was really shocked at how many versions of things they go through, and they're always refining. You know, here's a great example. The zipper on their new active jack, okay? The zipper head itself, they were noticing that what guys would do is they would tie a piece of rope or cord or a little piece of leather to the end of it, because in gloves, it's hard to grab. Well, you can grab it with that. What happens is you end up lengthening that lever arm, and you can torque off that zipper.
Yeah.
So now you're trying to like zip it up with like a pair of needle nose pliers or something, you know, it's like, it's not comfortable, and you end up like jamming yourself in the chin. What they did is they worked with YKK to come up with an articulating zipper head that will spin 360 degrees and won't break. So it's little things like that
that cool.
They'll do. Right. And then you just go, well, I can't exactly tell you why everything just seems to work, but it does, you know? And I love that they are always refining. Whereas some of these other brands that I try, I just got some Ben Davis stuff, which is like a famous West Coast brand. Some of these other brands just kind of say, that's how we do it. We're going to leave it. We don't want to be impeded by progress. This is tradition only. So, it is more expensive, but it's marginally more expensive. I just did a video about comparing Dickies work pants, the double fronts, to the Carhartt work pants, which, as I mentioned, were $14 more. They're $50.
That's nothing.
Right. They're $50. The Dickies were like 34 or 36.
Yeah.
And they were made in the USA, union made, and everything about them was just more well thought out. And I think that's the big takeaway with that brand in particular. Everything seems to be thought out. There's a purpose for the shape of the pocket bag, for where these rivets are. Everything that they do, there seems to be a why behind it. So I appreciate that about the brand.
Yeah, that's fairly eye-opening. I really like that. I think that's pretty rare to have that kind of rigorous testing, and I love that you said they send people to job sites.
Yeah.
Like, how cool is that?
Yeah. Well, they know. I met the guy who is the current, I don't know, COO or CEO. He's a descendant of Carhartt, the guy who actually started it, because it's still a family-owned company. It's not a big corporation, public company. It's a family-owned company, still private. So he was there and he spoke to us, which was really cool, because it wasn't just me. I'm not that important, but they brought me out there with like a dozen other people. And that was one of the things that they were saying, is that they don't ever want to lose that connection that they have to the people who actually wear their stuff, which is why they brought me out. The other people were woodworkers or farmers, people who wear their stuff. And they specifically chose people who wear their stuff without any kind of pat on the back from the brand themselves. That connection is important to them. And I think that's been instrumental to their success.
How did you get connected with them? Did they find your YouTube channel and reach out to you?
Yeah, that was like the most flattering thing ever. I know. Yeah, you get an email, and I almost deleted it because I thought it was like a sale or something. Yeah, it was like, Carl, do you want these pants? But it was, and I'm glad I didn't. So I read it, and it was from one of their marketing people, and he had this idea because of the video that I had done. I think I was comparing my Duluth trading pants to the Carhartt ones, and talking about the things I liked and that I didn't like. And that's where they had the idea to do this meetup. They were like, what if we bring out some people who could show the difference, show these things, and talk about what we're doing here. Wow. Yeah, I thought it was very insightful of them to do.
That's just so cool for you though, right? To have that experience via your YouTube channel. Yeah. I mean, that's the dream.
It validates it because you know how it is, man. I mean,
that's so cool.
I'm sitting here in our spare bedroom with a camera. I have like a 6x6 area, like jail cells are bigger, right? And I'm just like, I'm talking to a camera and doing my thing. And here we got a guy who reaches out from a company that everybody knows. Yeah. And they're saying like, hey, we want to see what you think of this or that. Holy, that was one of the moments I'm like, okay, this is working.
This is real.
Yeah, that was some serious validation.
And it's worth it. I'm gonna send you a picture of my setup after this. You'll have a good chuckle.
You can see all this greatness behind me. It's very luxurious around here.
I'm sitting in front of our couch. So I pop a little table out and then I sit in front of the bookshelf. Yep. And so my wife has to go upstairs whenever I record podcasts.
I told my wife the same thing. I'm like, can you just put on Toy Story or something? Yeah, close the door because I'm going to be downstairs. And I always wonder if like our wives think, yeah, this is like what they do. Let's just let them have their toys and do.
They're boys.
Yeah, exactly. I always wonder that if they're just like rolling their eyes and.
Luckily, my wife is an entrepreneur, so she works hard and she kind of understands the whole social media thing and doing what I'm doing, so she does support it. So definitely a big shout out to her for always supporting us and taking one for the team every episode and laying up on the couch and being super silent.
Yeah, so they do have to really, when we get to do these cool things, they're left with the burden of the work. I mean, me going out to Detroit for 3 days meant that she had 2 kids by herself for 3 days,
And you're literally gallivanting.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're going to go out there and have fun and
you're living the dream.
Right. I'll be here, with my house coat on and polishing the floors. It's like,
no big deal.
oh yeah, I know. That's every now and then I have to buy her dinner somewhere nice to thank her for that, But I mean, that's the give and take of relationship.
That's
Thank
marriage.
God. It is. But I mean, tell me if you feel this way, man. Like being married has freed up my mind to do so many other things that was normally taken up by like trying to date and stuff. Like being married has been like one of the greatest things to happen to me.
If I wasn't married, and this is no joke, my life would be in shambles. 100%. So my wife gets all the credit of, kind of, I guess, pulling me out of the gutter, really. So yeah, she's an incredible woman. So I wouldn't be anywhere without her, especially her support and that kind of stuff. So I would say that marriage is probably one of, if not the best things that's ever happened to me. So
yeah, but it takes two, though. I mean,
yeah, I've put her through the ringer, though. She's a good woman.
And then when you add kids to it, holy moly, things.
Oh, just wild.
Yeah, I know. And that's, you're recording these episodes and I'm doing my thing online and these things will probably outlive us.
Yeah,
you gotta think about the things that maybe our kids are gonna be looking at and saying, what the hell was Dad doing? Or they're gonna be like, he was actually pretty cool. I hope that they err on the side of pretty cool, but
I hope
still.
so. You can only hope.
Absolutely.
One thing that I'm gonna switch gears on you here. One thing that I love about my cool pants, and one thing that I cannot get away from now that I wear them, is the cell phone pocket on my leg. And I don't know if it's called a cell phone pocket, but that's what I call it. And it has actually changed my life.
Yeah.
Do you wear pants that have those at all?
No, I don't.
Oh my
I'm
goodness,
a back pocket cell phone guy. It sounds like these pants are something to see, though.
Man, it is. And the riders, I think it's the riders that I wear. They've got one on both sides. So one's got an angled cut on the right leg, so it's a bit easier to get in. And then your left leg has just a straight cut and it's just a deep pocket.
Gotcha. Yeah,
and man, it has changed my life.
No kidding, huh?
Like, it's the small things in life, right, that make things better. So like today I went and bought a new pair of work boots, and I bought slip-ons because I'm an inspector. I'm in and out of my car all the time. And I don't like driving with my boots on all the time, especially if they get muddy or something, right?
Yeah.
And then I bought some Helly Hansons last year, and I'm sick and tired of tying them up every time I get out of the car. So I talked to my wife the other day, and I was like, I just want to get some slip-ons. She was like, well, just do it. Again, great woman, always supporting me. So I picked some up today at Mark's Work Warehouse now that they're finally open again. And I've worn them just today, and I'm like, man, this is so much better.
Oh, yeah.
So
isn't it funny, those things?
Yeah, it's the small things. So, and now whenever I wear pants that don't have the pocket on the side, like, I'm upset. Well, you've got, like, phones aren't small.
No, they've gotten bigger.
They're in your thigh or your upper pocket here, and they take up a lot of space, and you sit down and it gets really tight and it's hard to get out, and it's just it's a complete hassle. That hassle is gone with the side leg pocket.
Yeah. And now it's one of those things you just can't live without.
Can't live without it.
Yeah.
So I love it.
I just reviewed the Patagonia workwear. They have this whole hemp blend, which they're really, really excited about.
Sure.
So I got the pants, a shirt, and a jacket. And the thing is, like, I'm hoping the video makes enough to cover the cost of buying this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, if it's a net just zero, I'd be happy. That'd be fine. But they have these back pockets, which are the same shape as the front pockets. So they're scalloped the way your front pockets would be.
Interesting.
And they go straight down. What I noticed, though, is they're fine if you're standing up. But then I was working on my car. As soon as I got on my back, everything fell out. Like my wallet, like everything that was in those pockets fell out. So sometimes something like that is a total hit or a miss. You're like, well, it's a good idea in practice. I mean, in theory, but in practice, it doesn't quite translate, So things like that, where you've put that through and you know that the cell phone thing is a real game changer for you.
Man,
how do you change out of that?
the cell phone in the back pocket is a scary thing. That's how cell phones go into toilets.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. You're right. And I always worry about this one because I remember seeing that video where the guy would bend his cell phone. Remember when they came out, like the Max and and I'm always thinking like, man, if I sit in this thing wrong, am I gonna have like a banana for a cell phone, But
is my butt a nice shape? Like, is that gonna be a good is that gonna be a good curve for my phone?
That's what I'm more worried about, is the shape of my phone after I sit on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I've been trying to get away from anything in my back pocket. I mean, I know I try and put my wallet in my front pocket now too, the whole like slipping your disc, whatever thing. Gentlemen, I just want to quickly interrupt the episode here. I know you're enjoying it because it's great content. I want to ask you again to rate, subscribe, and review and share the podcast. We also have a few more resources for you guys to check out. Check out the blog at menofbronze.ca. Currently, I'm going through a 30 days of carnivore diet where I eat only meat. That can include red meat, poultry, fish, eggs, and some dairy. So check it out, guys, because I'm blogging it on there. Telling you guys how it goes. I'm also getting off of caffeine completely for the month, and as well working out or exercising for at least 40 minutes per day. So follow the blog on menofbronze.ca and share that with your friends as well. And check me out on Instagram. That's where you can connect with me at StephenLopes_MOB. You can pretty much find that quite easily through the website or through any of the show notes or the YouTube description, guys. So easy place to find, to connect. Follow me on there. That's where you'll get more content, and there's going to be more and more content coming, guys, that's going to really allow you to grow and improve as a man. So check that kind of stuff out, guys. Okay, back to the conversation.
Yeah. Oh, it's real. Yeah. And so this is actually kind of interesting. I have one here, as a matter of fact. My buddy Tucker from K&H Leather, I came up with this idea, and I was thinking, I always wear my wallet in my front pocket, same thing. And I always had my wallet. I had a little, Swiss Army knife or something like this, and a Fisher Space Pen, because I always need to write something. So I would have those three things in my front pocket, and they would always like step over each other and not play nicely. So it was always like this big wad of crap in my front pocket. So I approached him and I was like, look, can we come up with something like a front pocket organizer for several cards, and two little slots in the front, one for a pen and one for a knife. And maybe you can put a flashlight in there. You can put whatever you want.
Whatever you want, yeah, as long as it fits.
Right. But the bottom, I wanted it to be, I don't know if you can see this, it's tapered.
Yep.
Because what it does is actually fits into the front of your pocket. It goes to that corner.
Yeah. Okay.
You know what I mean? And
Genius.
It stands up straight. And I was like, look, I just really kind of want to go through the exercise of designing it. You could have the whole, you could sell it and do what you want. I don't want to cut. But I was like, I just want to see if it'll work. And he was game. And we made a couple of them and had to revise them and stuff. But yeah, putting something in your front pocket is huge. But then there's the space issue because it tends to have less space.
Yeah.
This really organized it pretty well. So yeah, that's exactly what you're talking about.
Has he made a left and a right pocket?
He can make it any way you want. So he's a small shop. It's just one guy. He will make it, if you want it bigger, if you want it taller, if you want it left side or right side, or different leather types.
Yeah.
Then, matter of fact, he made me one the other day. He didn't even tell me he was going to do it. He made it out of shell cordovan, which is like the king of leathers. It's really, really cool. So I'm psyched. But yeah.
I have an interview tomorrow with Mike from Calavera Tools, and they make leather goods, and their main thing is these beautiful leather aprons for workers.
Oh, gotcha.
They are incredible. I'll send you his Instagram link because you'll love his
to
page. Incredible stuff. So they have a front pocket wallet, and it's nice, high grade, thick leather. Like the thing will last forever. Yeah. So I've been kind of toying with the idea of picking one up from them, but I mean they're not cheap.
No, and when I was talking to Tucker about this, he was telling me just the raw materials, what it costs. Like, yeah. And leather is one of those things where you can really hide a lot unless you know what you're looking at. You may not know. And when somebody says, "Oh, it's made of leather," that's not the end of the conversation. It has to be what kind of leather, what part of the hide is it from? And these are the things that, I went to the Horween tannery last year just to learn more about leather and how it's made and what happens. And, the difference between even the most basic things. So you have, chrome tanned leather, you have vegetable tanned leather, and chrome tanned leather takes about a week to make. Vegetable tanned leather takes about, I think it's like 8 months.
Wow.
It has to sit in these tannins in this solution, and it's rocked back and forth for months because that's how long it takes to make it. And it's just amazing. And then there's a leather out of Japan. The tannery is called Shinki, and their horse hide takes, I think it's like almost 2 years to make. So
classic Japanese making the best thing ever.
Yeah, that's the thing that's kind of a bummer because they've taken a lot of American things and just done them way better. I mean,
way better.
How can you argue with that?
Yeah.
There are some American makers. Free Note Cloth is one doing amazing things. There's a Canadian guy, Dave Himmel, Himmel Brothers Leather, doing some incredible stuff there too. But by and large, the Japanese have it. They have it on lock.
Well, they love quality, and they're very intelligent, and they're very hardworking, and they're dedicated to their crafts.
Yeah.
I mean, you look at Japanese woodworking, like it's mind-boggling the joints they do, right?
Yeah,
like it's
exactly.
crazy. Like we just don't do that
kind
here.
Of things. No, we don't, or we don't in any large scale. Because individual craftsmen can do very, very well. But that, I think, is again at the core of this idea of the Walmart effect. They know that they can't sell it because somebody's going to go, what are you, crazy? I think that back in the day, you would spend the money on some clothes because you knew that was your pair of boots or your pants or your jacket. It had to last because you couldn't just run out and get another one for $19.99. Now everybody's standards and expectations have been lowered so much that they've forgotten what a great quality piece of clothing feels like and how much longer it lasts and how much better it is. So in a way, you can't blame manufacturers from chasing that and trying to make more sales. Whereas I think the more admirable thing to do is say, we're going to make this particular thing to the best of our ability and price it after that, And there's a company, matter of fact, I have their briefcase right here. Moose Brand Leather. It's an American maker. And I think that's what they do because I look at their pieces and it's like, there's no way that is cost effective to make. There's just no way. Things are reinforced where they might not have to be and all these little extra details, but man, that is a lifetime piece. And you could go buy one for $200 and do it again next year and a year after that. But something like this, just it's really revealed what's behind all this,
Yeah, I agree. That goes. So one thing you had sent me in a note was like toxic consumerism. And that's exactly what that is, right? It's just, and part of the problem is, it would be great if all these companies did what you're saying, that is like, make this great quality items and say, this is just what it is. Here's quality. But there's always going to be someone that comes in and says, well, I'll do it for half the price.
Yeah.
And people like cheap. We live in a materialistic society where we just get rid of stuff like nothing. I went through my wardrobe 2 months ago, and I had, I've got half the closet, and then I had 2 dressers in our room, which is absurd. And I was reading a book by Dr. Benjamin Hardy about like clearing mental space, all that kind of stuff. So I thought, well, I'm going to clear my mental space on my clothing. It took me like 20 minutes, and I went down to 1 dresser. No problem. The other dresser's in the garage now. It felt great, and I never touched this clothes.
Yeah.
But why do I have it?
Yep. And that's the thing is boy, it feels good when you get rid of all that stuff. When you go through and you just get it's incredible. I would love to read that book because I'd love to know what's behind that feeling. Yeah. It really is. It's addicting. You go, what else can I get rid of?
Yeah, he's got 2 books. They're a bit different. His second book is coming out in July, and I'll be releasing an episode with him shortly as well. He's awesome.
Oh, cool.
Yeah,
awesome.
Great dude.
So I'll definitely be listening.
Personality Isn't Permanent is his new one coming out.
Gotcha.
So
Okay.
yeah, really cool dude.
I think there's a couple things we have to remember though. Number one is that not necessarily everybody can afford these things that I'm
Yes.
talking about.
Yep.
So those cheaper items do have a place. But even I look around here, my wife's a big fan of Costco. So we have a lot of stuff and it feels gluttonous, like
Yeah. Oh yeah.
we have all this stuff. Why do I don't need this. And boy, it is a night. Here's the thing though. It's an occupational hazard of what I've been doing. I review this stuff. So oftentimes I have to go and buy it and then try it out and then
Yep.
buy something else that's very similar to it to compare or to do another review. So it's a vicious cycle. And I feel bad sometimes because I have a lot of these great things which just aren't getting worn or used the way that they should. And it feels really gluttonous. And a lot of times, luckily her father is the same, my wife's father is the same shoe size as I am. So he is constantly getting new shoes.
Perfect.
And I know a few other people who are like my same size. So I'll try to give away as much as I can. And that feels great. But there's a weird feeling. And like I said, I think gluttonous is the best way to put it.
Yeah.
You're getting all this stuff. And you get that rush, almost like opening a present when you get something new.
Yep.
Then you got to find another place in your closet to put that stuff, and it just takes up space. It's not a good thing.
Amazon is so bad for that.
Oh yeah.
And I love Amazon, don't get me wrong. But like I'll buy stuff on Amazon just so I get a package in the mail.
Yeah. I'm sure a lot of people feel the same way.
Like I could get it quicker if I go to Walmart or whatever for that little phone mount or whatever it is that I'm ordering.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, the ease of doing it from the couch while I'm watching X-Files or you know what
Yeah.
I mean? And then
Yep.
the bonus is you get a package at the door.
Right.
Who doesn't love getting a package?
Yeah. You gave yourself a present.
It's a blast.
Yeah. But then when that dopamine hit wears off,
We got to buy a new phone mount.
gotta buy. Yeah. And I that's behind a lot of these
Yeah.
consumer habits.
Yeah.
And people know that. I mean, there's a whole, I forgot, what is the industry worth of drunk shopping? I just saw that.
Oh man,
Like
I'd be interested
people
in that.
people who shop while they're drunk online, and
Yeah.
somehow they figured it out. I don't know if they like measured how shaky the mouse was or whatever, but they somehow figured it out and then found out that, boy, there are a lot of people who are shopping online, and it's like a whole industry.
That's
just, like,
interesting.
getting stuff. Yeah.
But it's weird because like your judgment is gone.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be willing to buy that ridiculous item that's clearly overpriced because you just don't care and you're living in the moment.
Yep. Exactly.
I say good for any company that can exploit some drunk person shopping online.
What's something that you've bought that you're just like, I regret that. I shouldn't have bought that.
Oh man, I'm sure my wife would have a bunch of stuff. I do tend. I mean, she would have stuff about me. I tend to go through phases. I've been a lot better lately. So I wouldn't say I necessarily regret anything, but I'll often spend too much money on a quick fling of a hobby.
Gotcha.
Does that make sense? So
Yeah.
like even getting into podcasting, it's obviously been worth it, but like I bought 2 of these mics right away and that kind of thing. I've been fairly good with it. I haven't spent that much, but you can get caught up and end up spending too much money. I built a computer a few years ago, which I've since sold, but I went to the full like PC gamer thing and bought all this ridiculous stuff.
Light up things and
exactly
cases and
yeah, I've since cut ties with gaming pretty much and sold that. So it's like, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to go through those kind of fads. So I would say I don't really buy too many things that I regret, but I probably just spend too much money when if I just sat with the hobby for a little bit longer, I would realize that I'm happy with what I have.
Yeah. And that's a great way to be. Is it's slippery slope because number one, you always do want to be able to pursue your interests.
Yeah, I don't necessarily mean don't pursue your interests, but I mean like I'll give you an example right now. I'm building a home gym in the garage.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm slowly putting some pieces together, but it's so easy to want to grab like, a new barbell and get some new plates and I want a plyo box, so I'll buy a plyo box and
Mm-hmm.
And you want something that's good quality because, you know, that motivates us to dive into the hobby, right? You know, if you have a quality gym in your garage, you're more likely to use it than this dungy old thing, right?
Yep.
But there is a balance there. You don't need to have a commercial gym in your garage to have a good time.
Right. Right.
So I need to be aware of that because I have that tendency, and I get it from my mom's side, I think, because she's like that.
Mm-hmm.
So I need to be aware, and before I make a decision to buy something that's really expensive for the gym, be like, do I really need that right now?
Yeah. Yeah.
And because if it was up to me, and if I was single, I would just buy everything for the gym. I would spend like the next 3 paychecks on it. So
There's a certain amount of buy-in too, though. Like I don't know if you do this. If I buy something, I'm like, well, this will also give me more motivation to do that. So if I buy a new barbell, well, then
yeah,
I'll be wanting to do more squats. You know, you play that game too. You know, it could be a very tricky thing to manage.
you got to make sure you're not lying to yourself, though.
Right, exactly. You have to be honest with yourself and say, well,
Yeah.
And I do the same thing, man. I think we probably all do to an extent. I do it with camera gear, like all the time. You know, I'm like, well, you know, 4K is the new thing, and boy, nobody's gonna watch my stuff if I don't have like a $1,500 macro lens. And
Yeah.
you know, that's not the truth. I mean, there is a
truth,
certain you can make great quality things. You know, like. With very, very little. So you could buy a DSLR, you could, whatever it is, you can. The important thing is not necessarily the resolution and all that stuff. It's what you're filming or what you're recording. So, you know, I noticed that there seems to be a point of diminishing return that's pretty low. You can get good enough very quickly. After that, the prices start to, they go crazy.
And it's easy to get caught up in that game.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Definitely.
Especially when you're creating content, because you want to create the best content possible.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of weird, though, because that's almost the opposite of what we're kind of talking about here. Is people have the opposite idea when it comes to their clothing and stuff, right?
Yeah.
We tend to go for quantity over quality, or what just happens to look good right now. And we don't do any, we rarely do any research on clothing. We just buy what's on the shelf.
Right.
So, like, for example, my Timberland Chelsea boots, I love them. They were $150. You would probably think they're trash. But, you know, for someone like me who doesn't know, it's like, oh, I like Timberland. These are a nice boot. They're comfortable, but they're not going to last me years and years.
Right.
And I did a little bit of research on boots before I bought a new pair, and you'll know all about this, how they wrap the leather onto the sole and that kind of stuff. There's different ways they can do that.
Yeah.
And if you buy a boot like mine, they don't do it the right way. Right.
Well, it's probably cemented, and it could actually delaminate over time. And the big thing that people are pushing is this Goodyear welting. You know, that's people hold it up like it's this holy grail. For us, though, in construction, stitch down construction, I think, is actually a lot better. And the cool thing is, like, for you or anybody who wants to get a lot of boot for not very much money, there's a company that I just started working with, because I had gotten a comment from somebody in South Africa who said, you got to check out this brand, Jim Green. They're like the Red Wing, but here in South Africa.
Interesting.
So I found them on Instagram and I sent them a message, and come to find out they were really nice. Like some of the nicest people I've ever met. More than happy to tell me about their brand. They sent me a pair of boots through like a courier because they don't have distribution here.
Cool.
And so I was like, oh, this is really neat. Came with all the South African packaging and stuff. And I opened them up. I'm like, holy moly, these things they cost like $120. They are incredible quality. They're stitched down construction. And one of the things that they told me was they try to source everything from South Africa so they can pay, the local people. They pay all of their workers the fair wage, the full 100% footwear manufacturing wage. Some places where they skimp because they know people can replace it, they don't really put a whole lot of money into their footbed. They say that most people change them out anyway. They want to put like a custom orthotic in there, or like a Dr. Scholl's or something. So they say, we kind of put something in there that'll work, but if you take that out, you'll have something really great. But again, they're like, people resole our boots 3 or 4 times.
Wow.
And I thought for sure these were going to be $300 boots. And when I saw, now they're available on Amazon in the US, as a matter of fact.
Oh, really?
So you can get them. And they're excellent. They're fantastic. I wear them all the time, like an embarrassing amount of duration. And like I wear them constantly because they're just excellent. They're a little bit wider so that, if you have a wider foot, they're naturally like just a little bit wider. It's like South African leather, South African sourced everything. And I was like, this is a perfect example of you can get quality. You kind of have to dig for it, though. You sometimes have to really look for it, but you can definitely find it. And your Timberlands, there's plenty of people who swear by the brand. I had a pair of Timberland Pros when I was in the field, But getting back to what you were saying earlier, I think maybe the lesson is going too far one way or the other is dangerous. So if you're going really, really cheap, you're not getting the experience of a quality product, et cetera. You're adding to the throwaway society. Whereas on the other hand, I know a big place you can spend a ton of money is like audiophile stuff.
Man,
like
crazy.
A great pair of speakers and like Macintosh amps and stuff.
Yeah.
I went to a headphone festival in New York this year. And I was walking around and all these people were like, testing these things out. And I asked one of the guys at the booths, I said, so what do people like listen to? What's like the favorite type of music? He goes, no, there was some female artist, and he goes, and everybody wants to listen to Hotel California. I'm like, Hotel California, really? He goes, yeah, there's a section in there, and on really high fidelity headphones, you can hear a guy cough at like the 2 and 3 second mark or something.
Really?
Like I'm like, okay, so all these people are putting these things on in order to hear somebody cough. What about the connection you feel to the music?
It's like, that's not what it's about, man.
You've overshot. You have lost. Yeah, you can't even see the shore anymore, dude.
You've gone too far.
Yeah, you've gone way too far.
Yeah.
What we have to remember is you got to keep the reason that most people pursue this is they love music. They love hearing it the way it was recorded. But at some point, you start going so far. It's like counting pixels on your TV.
Yes.
Yeah, but that's an 8K TV. Yeah, but that movie is terrible. Or like sometimes I'll film things in log so then I have to go in and I have to color correct everything, and it takes hours.
Oh no.
Why did I do that? Nobody's going to notice. They're going to look at it on their cell phone.
Yeah,
So it's like,
right.
You've got to restrain it the other way too, because it's easy to go, I need that brand new $8,000 camera, or I need an $50,000 Arri Alexa and all this fancy stuff. Look at me, I'm talking into a microphone. There's like $1,300, and like
I looked it up after I asked you what kind of microphone you use, and I looked it up and I was like, oh my, what is that?
It's recording stupid old me. I mean, it's not, like Thomas Sowell on the other end of this thing. It's like, what you can understand me perfectly fine through a lot of, and I do the same damn thing with so many other things. I mean, so I guess the lesson here, which I guess kind of taught ourselves, is
self-reflection.
It
hurts.
You gotta be careful, because you go too far at the end of quality, you spend money unnecessarily.
Yep.
You go the other way, you don't. So somewhere in the middle is that sweet spot, and I guess that's the new thing I gotta find is where's that middle ground?
Where's the sweet spot? I was talking to another podcaster recently, and one of the things that they said was, don't stress too much about your audio. Like, obviously you want good audio, and that's why we buy microphones and that kind of thing. But he said, in podcasting, audio just needs to be good enough.
Yeah.
Good enough. Once you get past the good enough stage, it doesn't matter. It's all about your content after that. So don't record with your phone headphones with the built-in microphone. Don't record with that, obviously.
Right.
Learn how to touch up the background noise. Learn how to use a noise gate if you need it. That kind of thing. But you don't need the Joe Rogan setup to create a good podcast. You don't need the $500 Sherman mic, or Sherman. I think it's Sherman, whatever it is, with the big, with the big Rode button switcher and all that kind of. You just don't need it. You don't need this audio interface that costs $5,000 and. You just don't need it. And if you spend too much money, you'll never get it back.
No,
I mean, you might, but
Yep.
You don't want to go too deep, right? Then anyway.
I think it can be a crutch though. So if you or I are out here and we're making our content and it's creative. So there was always a side of you which is like, man, is this not very good? Well, at least it'll sound or look as good as it possibly can, you know? But the problem with that though is, are you concentrating too much on the delivery and not as much on the product itself? So,
yes.
You know, and that's a thing I have to constantly remind myself of, is just, it doesn't really matter. So you don't have, you know, this piece of gear or whatever. It's the content behind it. There's no doubt. There's such a great, I mean, that's a wonderful thing to remember, is good enough is most of the time is good enough.
It's easy to get caught up though. Like, I mean, I get like self-conscious about my silver microphone sometimes. I'm like, why can't it just be black? Which is just totally ridiculous, right?
Yeah,
like,
it is.
It's just totally silly.
I'll tell you this though. This is something that I didn't realize how many lessons I learned from this. I've been riding motorcycles for a long time, I was in junior high, since long before I should have been riding a motorcycle.
Yeah.
And I had a little Yamaha 250, and then I bought the first like street legal motorcycle that I used to ride was a Suzuki 650. It was called a Savage. It was a 1-cylinder, and it would just thump around. It was a great little bike. And my buddies had Harleys and stuff. So I'm riding mine and I'm like kind of feeling embarrassed because they have like twice the motor, and it's like, it's a Harley Davidson, right? You know, I bought a Harley like a few years later. I had more fun though on that little Suzuki. It didn't matter that it wasn't a Harley Davidson. I had so much fun riding around with my friends, taking people on rides, just taking great trips. And it's not that I wasn't enjoying that, but looking back, it didn't matter what I was on. It didn't matter how much it cost. I had such a good time, and I could have the most expensive bike, but if you don't use it in the right way or with the right people or the right experiences, it just doesn't matter. So I think that has a few lessons there, you know?
Yeah. If you get too caught up, like you said, you get too caught up in what you're riding, or, you know, to make it more broad, what you're using in general for whatever your hobby is, you're going to lose sight of the fun. You know, if you're playing hockey and you have a wood stick or whatever, and all your buddies have composite sticks, and you have a blast, and then, you know, you spend all this money and you get that composite stick, and then nothing changes. You're like, oh, well, but I spent $500, so shouldn't this be better?
Right.
Like, but it's not the gear that's making you have fun.
Right.
It's the fact that you're playing a game with your buddies.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm a drummer, so I always wanted like the drum workshop or Sonar kit or whatever the newest like $8,000 drum set was, you know. But I always had a lot of respect for those guys who would go up and they had like a 70s Ludwig or something and would just kill it.
Just bang it out.
Yeah, if you show up and you have like a brand new Fender Strat or you know, whatever, you know, there's an expectation there that you better be able to bring it.
Yeah,
I think sometimes it's almost kind of nice to have like the sleeper, which is, you know, you show up with this gear that's maybe, you know, it's good enough, but then you know how to use it. There's something really respectable about that. I
agree. Yeah, you heard it here, folks. This is the Sleeper Podcast. my $70 mic that's plugged into my computer via USB.
So. Yeah, but what are the differences though? Okay, you're talking into a mic that's $70. This one was like $1,300. Does anybody notice like that much of a difference? And if so, would it make you not listen? I don't think so. I've listened to your podcast. It sounds great.
I appreciate it.
So I mean, what's the real benefit? You know, for me, it's a write-off. I could justify it that way.
Yeah.
And that was about it. That was really about it. Yeah.
So if we're talking quality, are there any like brands of clothing? I'm going to switch back to gears again. Are there any brands of clothing that are actually really worth that extra money?
Yeah. I mean, it depends on what you're talking about as far as the types of clothing. If you're talking about suiting, there's definitely some brands that are worth it, some that aren't. It's always best to go semi-custom if you can, because the fit is really more important than anything else in all quality or in all clothing. If it fits you well, it tends to look better. You know, I would rather have a
Yes.
$500 suit than a $2,500 suit, as long as it fit well.
Right.
So it's tough because there are some brands which across the board make really good stuff. And then there are some which you have to be careful of. Filson's one that you sort of have to be careful of. They used to make across the board great stuff. Then they started outsourcing a lot of their stuff. And, you know, you can get shirts there, which still cost $120. They're no better than like an LL Bean shirt, which is made in the same factory, most likely. Right. But yes, there are definitely, I'll give you an example. Okay. I bought a free note cloth shearling lined denim jacket. Okay. Then I bought one from a company called Brave Star, shearling lined denim jacket. The difference between the two is night and day. Now the Brave Star one was about $200. The free note cloth one was about $900.
Wow.
So function wise, will they both keep you warm? Definitely. Right. When you put one on though, the $900 one, there's no question where that money went. The denim itself is thicker. The shearling on the inside is softer. It's fit much nicer. You know, it's a trimmer fit. The lining on the sleeves and inside the pockets is satin. You know, I mean, it's like when you put it on, you know where that money went. So it's tough because if what you need is a decent looking jacket that's going to keep you warm, some of these other more affordable options will be great. And that's why I was trying to like do as many of those videos as I possibly can, because I recognize not many people are going to ever spend that kind of money. You know, their wives are going to kill them.
Even $200 for a denim jacket is a lot of money. It
is. It really is. But again, you have to work. You know, do you care about the people who are making it? That they are being treated fairly and being paid a decent wage. You could get, you know, stuff that's made in China where, you know, it's questionable conditions. These both are made in the USA.
Right.
Do you care about where the fabric came from? Do you care about where the wool came from? Is that harvested ethically? All those things, they cost money. You know, it's much cheaper to get things with, I mean, practically slave labor and, not caring about the well-being of the animal itself. It could be
and the environment and everything.
Yeah, exactly. The environmental impact. And unfortunately, it's one of those things that does come at a cost. So only some people are going to think it is worth it. With footwear, I think that the measure is a lot easier to quantify, because when you look at a cemented boot, which is made out of, you know, a leather type material, or if you look at something that is in like the $500 or $600 range, above that, you start looking at it becomes more art and about the person who made it.
Right.
You know, and like laser precision and polishing and stuff like that. So I always think that there's a line of diminishing return around maybe the $600 mark. So yes, there's a big difference. Most of the time what that is a custom fit. A lot of these boots, you send in like your measurements. They will build the last, which is what the mold is that actually they build the boot around, the foot type shape. They'll build the last to match your foot. So I have a high instep, which is that top part of your foot. They'll build the boot to accommodate that. So when you put these on, there's no pinching or, you know, really tough break-in. The leather is oftentimes thicker. It's oftentimes a better part of the hide. It's stitched in a way which won't come undone no matter what you do to it. And even when you do wear through that sole, the rest of it is of such integrity that it can be rebuilt using that same piece. So they take it all apart, slap a new sole on there, condition it, probably throw it on the last just to give it another, you know, give it a shape, and send it back to you, and it's ready to do service again.
Yeah, so cool.
Yeah, it really is. And I saw it being done at Allen Edmonds. I had a pair of boots which I had worn through the sole on. They showed me the way they do it, and it's a pretty quick process. They have it down to a science, and then they give it back to you, and it's like your old friends, you know what I mean? You're like, oh man, these are my boots, but even better now, you know? There's something really nice to that. You broke them in. You remember the scars and the marks that are on there because it tells a story of your life. And then it's resold, and it's ready to do it all over again. I love that.
My father-in-law is I wouldn't say he's cheap, but he cares where his money goes. He's got a pair of, like, I guess you'd call them dress shoes. They're not dress shoes like you picture in your head when you say dress shoes, but like they're office wear shoes, whatever. But they're very nice, and I think he's had them resold like 3 times.
Yeah. Oh,
but
yeah.
He's had them like 20 years.
Right. And then again, if he did buy them a while ago, the standard of quality was typically pretty higher at the low end, if that makes sense.
I have no idea what they are, but
well, there's a saying. It's $100 pair of shoes will last a man a year. A $200 pair of shoes will last a man 3 years, and like a $300 pair of shoes will last a lifetime, because the steps go up very quickly. The leather gets better, all that stuff, where you can resole it and wear them again and again, and really get your money's worth out of them.
This is something that I struggle with. Is there a t-shirt brand that you would recommend?
Yeah.
I find t-shirt shopping very challenging.
It can be tricky, and you have to go into it knowing what you want. Do you want durability? Do you want comfort? Do you want moisture wicking? Do you want utility? The company that I like is called Lady White. You can buy a 2-pack of their t-shirts for, I think, about $50. And I know that's a lot of money. It's not cheap, but I think that's where the diminishing return is again. You can buy more expensive loop-wheeled t-shirts, which are, they're seamless. They're actually made on a loop wheel machine. It's a denser weave. They're beautiful. There's no doubt about it. But they're also, $100 plus per. So there's a company called Lady White that make some incredible t-shirts. It's the 2-pack that I'm thinking of. I can't remember the exact model, but there's not a whole lot of them. Those are really, really nice.
And are they just plain shirts?
Just plain white. Yeah, plain white. The ones that I've been liking lately is the Carhartt Force series. Have you seen those? They're really nice. Okay. They just came out with them a couple years ago. Pocket tee, like the normal ones that they have. They're sweat wicking, but what I like about them is that they're not sweat wicking synthetic fabric. They're sweat wicking 100% cotton.
Interesting.
So, yeah, one of the problems with synthetics, polyesters and things like that, they hold a color very well. They can be very stretchy. They can be woven to a very soft textile. One of the problems with them is that they tend to hold odor, and oftentimes you have to wash your gym clothes with like vinegar just to kind of reset them in a way. I always notice that if I wear something that's like polyester, like one of those really techie shirts, like the dry fit Nike stuff, I always feel like I can like smell myself. I can relate to that. Something's up here. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
The Carhartt ones are stretchy, and I like the fact that they're moisture wicking, but also 100% cotton. Those are some of my favorite work shirts. I love those, and they're relatively affordable too.
Yeah, I don't know why t-shirt shopping is so hard. Maybe it's because it's probably the most common made garment available, right? The t-shirts are literally a dime a dozen. You can get the quality ranges massively. You can get the crappiest t-shirt possible with Homer Simpson's face on it, or like a nice quality shirt. But it seems to be, I just find it really tough to find something that'll last me a couple of years, fit nicely, and look decent. Yeah.
It's tricky. If you buy like the Hanes 10-pack, the neck loses elasticity like right away. They start looking dingy. They're like off-white. And then they might start to rip. And again, it's that whole thing of they were cheap, but you really didn't enjoy your time in them. And now look, you got to buy some more, and you're gonna have to buy t-shirts and socks and underwear and stuff like that. You're always gonna have to buy more. But Lady White, I think you may be pleasantly surprised with those.
Yeah, I can check them out. I'm not a huge fan of plain white tees though.
I think they have a couple colors, but it's nothing too crazy.
I like I think this one's like you see the darker blue up top.
Oh yeah.
Lighter blue down. I kind of like that. It's simple, but there's a bit of depth to it.
There's another company called Flint and Tinder.
Flinton?
Flint and Tinder.
Oh, Flint and Tinder.
Yep, and it's actually a brand that's owned by the website Huckberry, and they're made in the USA.
I've heard of Huckberry before.
Yeah, Huckberry's great. They have all kinds of cool stuff there. but they do have a few house brands, and Flint and Tinder is one of them. They make a lot of great stuff like that, and I think it's called their Air Knit tees. I bought a couple of those to go down to Disney World with the family last year because I knew it was going to be hot, and those are very nice. The Air Knit ones, at least, they're very light feeling.
Cool.
So in a hot environment, you don't feel too uncomfortable. Made in the USA, very nice stuff.
I like that. There's a couple of questions I want to ask you before I let you go. I know we're running not super late, but late enough. Why should a man care about what he wears?
Because what you wear tells the world about you. When I was an apprentice and I wanted to become a foreman, or I wanted to become like a crew lead, one of the things I did was I would dress like the boss. So it's hard to do on a construction site. I think that's might be one of the hardest places to do it. But I bought a bunch of Carhartt polos, actually, tucked them in, made sure that my stuff wasn't junk, groomed nicely, went to work like I gave a damn about myself.
Yep.
And what ended up happening was people kind of thought that I was the boss there. And yeah, exactly. And then what ended up happening was the company felt confident in letting me be the face of the company. So yeah, you want to go to a job meeting, we know we can put you out there and you'll look good, right? That I think was instrumental into climbing that ladder. So no matter where you are, if you're putting forth the vibe that you care about yourself through your appearance, which is, again, your grooming, your clothing, all that stuff, people will size you up before you even open your mouth.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's the big, big benefit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot to that. Dressing for the job you want. We've all heard about that, not the job you have.
Right.
And we've heard about this is actually one of the things that Benjamin Hardy talks about in his book as well, is when you do dress a little bit nicer or you carry yourself nicer, you'll be more confident.
Mm-hmm.
You'll be more confident in your abilities, with your social aspects. You'll be more confident talking to people, that kind of thing. Whereas, if you're out in your Nike sweatpants and your Crocs, and if you get approached by someone who is dressed nicely, you instantly feel like you're down a notch.
Right, exactly. And that's one of the things with everybody staying home now, working from home. I've heard this advice time and time again, which is get up and get yourself ready for the day. Don't just roll out of bed and go to work. Get up, get yourself put together, and then go about your day, because it has a direct effect on you, your job performance, the way you carry yourself, the way you feel about yourself at the end of the day. I'm not smart enough to know why that is, but I do know that it does have some very tangible effects.
I've even read that people who shower in the morning, every morning, are more successful, more confident, and just generally feel better about themselves. And
I believe it.
And they're more motivated to complete tasks or something along those lines.
Yeah, I think that it probably has far-reaching benefits.
Yeah.
I mean, even when you consider talking to women, or, it's just when you approach a woman and that you look good, you're put together, you're primed and ready to go. You are. It's almost like you put a cape on,
Yeah, I agree.
You're just like, here I am, it's a wonderful feeling.
Side question for you. What are your thoughts on streetwear?
I don't like it at all. Yeah, I don't get it. I just don't understand it, man. Like, I know it's like a culture and all that. I
had to ask you that one.
I don't like those like really tight black pants with like purposeful rips in the knees and I don't get it, man. I don't understand it, and I don't understand people who like think that that's attractive or I don't get it. I just don't understand it. But that's all I'm gonna say.
So you wouldn't spend $200 on a Supreme t-shirt?
Not in a million years. Nope. It almost seems like a joke that nobody told anybody was a joke.
Yeah.
It's like, crazy, does anybody else? Yeah. This is a weird version of the Matrix. One? Yeah, exactly. I don't get it. I just don't get it. The whole hype beast thing, and it way over my head, man.
Yeah, that's fair. These damn kids.
Too old. That's what it is.
Uh, one or two more things before I let you go. I know I just heard one of your kids coming around, so I'll let you get back to your family. What's your favorite kind of boot? What's your favorite kind of pant? And what's your favorite kind of shirt?
Oh, yeah, you mean types, or are you talking brands?
Your call.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fair enough. And I would rather keep brands out of it because number one, there's so many great ones, and number two, I don't want to seem like I'm like dropping names.
You don't want to you don't want to have any enemies either.
No, exactly. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You call that our competitor.
No more factory visits for you.
Yeah. Exactly. So it was boot, pant, and what?
Shirt.
Shirt.
Or
okay.
Pick whatever you want.
Yeah. Yeah. No, for me, let's start at the bottom with boots. I always like a work boot-esque, type of boot. So something that can actually, my whole thing is I want the clothes that I wear in the beginning of the day to be able to work with me throughout the day and not have to worry about changing. If I leave and I'm wearing like super duper polished stuff and everything's like just prim and proper, then I can't go work in my garage after.
Yeah.
So whatever the day brings, and as you know, with us working in both field and office, it can be a lot of different things. I always wanted a boot that has the goods, so it has good traction, it's built well, but it still looks nice. That's the ultimate for me. So something that's supportive, something that can go through a construction site, but also look at home in the office is perfection. And those are the boots that I tend to wear the most.
Do you like the whole Chelsea boot thing, like the Bluntstones, like my Timberlands? Do you like that kind of style?
Yeah, I do. I have a pair of Bluntstones, and I don't wear them all that much. I do like them, and I love being able to just like slip them on. That's incredible. Yeah, I mean, I have a pair of 10-inch tall work boots that I wear when I'm like really going to go out for the day. It takes 5 minutes to put them on, though.
Yeah, I can't do
it. Yeah. So there are a couple of, I think that the White's MP boot is probably a great example of this, what I'm talking about. It's well built. It has like a military history. Cool. And it just looks great. So, and that's one of the original designs of that particular boot. When it comes to pants, denim all the way. Like if you can find something that is raw, that's just way better. If it's selvage, that's even better. You get these just variations, and what ends up happening is the nicer that the denim is, typically the people who are putting it together will put it together in a more careful and detailed way. Nobody's going to work with an expensive, rare textile and not give it the attention and everything it deserves because it's expensive.
Right.
So sometimes you can hit a sweet spot, though. I mean, there are brands which are sub $100, like Brave Star, where it's still a great pair of jeans. And I love the way they look when they get beat up in a few years on them and like they start to fade and stuff. To me, that's where it's at. As far as a shirt, I'm a big flannel guy. I mean, New England, that's kind of like what we do.
Yep. So
there are some flannel shirts that I absolutely love, and I wear flannel. I'm still wearing flannel. It's like almost June, So
yeah, fair enough.
I'll change for a little while, maybe until like September
if I have to,
but I won't like it. Yeah. Is that like the total urban lumberjack look that I just described? I mean, that's like full on.
Yeah, but
Seattle barista.
That's the issue, though, right? Is the whole hipster look is copied from functional, hardworking people, right? That like quality.
Yeah,
so
100%.
They've kind of ruined it for us.
Yeah, I can see that, and a lot of people have that same feeling. I think that you should be able to wear whatever you want, no matter what. I don't like when people gatekeep for, like, oh, you can't wear mock toe boots because that's what the working people wear. Define working people, as long as you're actually bringing home money with your, skills that you're working. But, I agree. And that's what ends up happening is, and I get called out all the time on my videos of, being like a hipster or being, whatever people want to say. And I'm like, look, do you want me to show you my electrical license or my CDL or my OSHA 30 card? What will make me enough of a working guy for you, particularly?
I grew up beard, and people start calling me a hipster. I'm like, sorry that I have facial hair.
Right. Yeah, exactly. What do you want from me? And it just goes back to, you got to do things because you want to do them.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, I could explain exactly why I wear everything that I wear. Mostly it's because it's comfortable, it works, and I think it looks good. That's the requirements.
Yeah, but you don't need to justify yourself to, I mean, quote unquote, haters.
No,
right?
not at all. And it's
a
vocal minority. It's a vocal minority.
For
you know,
sure.
when I look at a video and it gets, hundreds of likes and then one dislike and one guy who's being a real pain in the ass, I'm not going to spend time on that guy because most people really liked it. That's
hard though, isn't it?
Oh, it's so hard.
Right. Really... You can get 1,000 compliments, but one person says you're an idiot, and you're like, what?
I know. And, I'm not above, like, unleashing on them. I'm not, man. Like, that's the construction side, like,
it's tough.
You don't just call somebody out and not expect them to, like, clap back at you, man. Come on.
For sure.
And it drives me nuts because they would never say that stuff in person.
Never.
And so many times it's just not based in reality. But I try to rise above it, but it doesn't always work, man.
I love it. It's tough.
It is. It really is. And you know what? Aaron Marino told me a long time ago, if you're getting haters and you're getting negative comments, you're on the right path.
You're winning.
Exactly. Because nobody cares otherwise. If nobody cares about you and it's crickets, then you got to worry. But if you're getting haters, you're on the right path.
That's good. Carl, I think that's a good time to wrap it up.
Yeah, man. Thank you so much.
My one last question for you is, how can we become more effective men?
I think, Jocko Willink's thing about extreme ownership.
Yep.
And not passing the buck. I think there's so much value in that, and it's so easy to pass off things. Somebody else's fault. There's a reason I can't do this. Excuses, all that stuff. When you just cut the BS and you can own every decision, good or bad, and learn from it, I think that's at the core of so much,
I love that, man. That's a great last line. I put you on the spot there. You came through.
Thank you.
And where can people find you online?
Just type in Carl Murawski. Carl with the C, last name Murawski. I'm on Instagram, YouTube. That's pretty much it. I don't have time for anything else.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm trying to like dabble into Twitter a little bit. It is not really my space.
No, I agree, 100%.
It's a tough one.
Yeah. Plus, you have to fish in the fishing holes that are gonna give you the most.
So I agree.
Yeah, I'd rather be pretty good at a couple than like try to figure out a whole bunch.
That's the 80-20 rule.
Exactly.
Yeah, I'm sure you've heard that one before.
Yeah, 100%, dude. Well,
awesome,
no, 80%.
Yeah. Man, I appreciate you coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me. Thanks for slumming it for a day.
I got even more than I wanted it to be. We talked, almost half our conversation isn't even clothing related.
Yeah, no, you're right.
So, which is great. That's how, it's natural. It's a genuine conversation. And if that's what I get, that's exactly what I want.
Yeah, I hear you, man. Well, thank you so much for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming out, and enjoy the rest of your evening with your family.
Yeah, man. You too.
Have a good one, man.
All right, buddy.
Thank you for listening. Remember to visit our website at www.menofbronze.ca. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram, and share the show with your friends and family. This was the Men of Bronze podcast. Be worth remembering.